I guess it's time for serious politicians to stick to their principles, keep their nerve and remember the long game. I'm joined first tonight by Sir Ed Davey, leader of the Liberal Democrats. Did he think, having heard Braverman's harsh words, it was now impossible for the right of politics to unite?
Well, I mean, on Suella Braverman first, I think it's been surprising why she's waited so long. I think we've all been expecting this, probably even more so than the Jenrick defection. And increasingly, Reform are looking like a sort of Boris Johnson, Liz Truss Mark II, and that's a problem for them. In terms of the broad point you make about the right, I mean, broadly, they are clearly split. They clearly don't like each other. There is debate, of course, amongst some of the right-wing journalists about whether there should be a pact or a deal. Personally, I've always been against pacts and deals. I think the public hate them. But I don't know whether they're up for that. They don't look like they get on very well.
Let me ask you about whether there is a problem possibly ahead for your party, the Liberal Democrats, because as the Tories lose more and more people to the right, we could imagine the party swinging a little bit back more towards the centre-right. And we've had Ruth Davidson and others forming their new group inside the Tories. In a sense, you have been hoovering up some of those more centre-right voters as well. Are you now in a harder competition with the Conservatives if they move in your direction?
Well, only time will tell, obviously. I don't quite see it like that. I mean, Ruth Davidson and Andy Street are the sorts of Tories who they share some of our values, you know, respect for the rule of law, tolerance, decency. Don't always agree with them on everything, of course. I think there's going to come a moment, Andrew, when they have to make a choice if Kemi Badenoch and the Tories end up putting Reform into power, despite these problems with those relationships. And if they do, I think they need to think about the Liberal Democrats. My door will be open if they decide not to go with Kemi Badenoch and do something with Reform.
That's really interesting. Let me ask you about what's going on in the Labour Party at the moment. Keir Starmer has, in effect, blocked Andy Burnham from returning to the House of Commons and challenging him from the left for the party leadership and the prime ministership. Do you think that was a wise decision? And as somebody who steps, you know, across the chamber from Keir Starmer and has a kind of relationship with him every week, do you think that his time is running out?
Well, on Andy Burnham, I've always had some time for Andy. I think the stuff he's done, the Hillsborough law and the duty of candour, I completely agree with. And I think the Prime Minister's been weak on that. He's actually always spoken up on social care, which has been a big issue for me. And I think the Prime Minister has failed on that. And I've always genuinely been impressed by some of the positions he's taken. And I think it's a sign of weakness that the Prime Minister and the National Executive Committee involved had to bar him. There's no doubt it's a sign of weakness. And I think that's a general problem for the Prime Minister. He came in, everyone hoped there would be real change from the Conservatives and he'd lead that. He's made a lot of mistakes. He's looking increasingly weak, whether it's at PMQs or, frankly, in the broader media and public dialogue. And that creates an opening for the Lib Democrats, by the way. But I think it means that Keir Starmer is in serious trouble.
You have to plot ahead, plan ahead, as it were. Are you thinking about the possibility of a challenge to the Prime Minister this spring?
That's such an issue for the Labour Party, and I find even these committees the Labour Party have that take these decisions a bit of a closed book to me. There's all sorts of circumstances we play for and plan for, obviously, but my biggest focus is on my own party and winning for our policies and our values. And we've got the May elections. We're focused, on Scotland, where I think we can do really well. I think there's a whole set of English council elections where we can do really well, building on our success last year when we came above the Tories and Labour for the first time in one set of May elections. First time we'd ever done it above both parties at the same time. And we won more council by-elections than any other party, including Reform, last year. So my focus, Andrew, as leader of the Liberal Democrats, is on that and planning how we continue to win.
Sticking with the Prime Minister, however, I sit and watch Prime Minister's questions, and I've been listening to the kind of language or posture, if you like, that you take towards Donald Trump. Very, very very different traditionally from Keir Starmer. Now, at the beginning of last week, Keir Starmer, as it were, stood up very strongly and used kind of Ed Davey-ish language about Greenland and Trump. And, of course, Donald Trump folded later. And then the same thing happened when Donald Trump cast a slur on British troops in Afghanistan. Do you take heart from a different kind of approach from the Prime Minister, from the British government towards the Trump administration than we've seen before?
Well, I welcome the change in tone, but I don't think it's gone far enough. And I don't think they can take credit for either of the backdowns of Donald Trump. First of all, on Greenland, I think that was the European Union saying they'd got this bazooka of retaliatory tariffs that hit the American stock market. And no doubt Donald Trump's billionaire friend said, "Hold on, be careful. We don't want to be hit in the pocket." I'm afraid the Prime Minister didn't get on board and work with our European partners. So I don't think he can take any credit for the Trump back down on Greenland. As for the shocking, appalling comments of President Trump about British soldiers in Afghanistan, which, I still find incredible that anyone like him should say that, but he did. I think it was our king who wrote a note. I think it was the king who got Trump to back down. So I hope Number 10 aren't trying to take credit for that.
Final question. We've been watching last few days the terrible scenes happening in Minnesota. With the confrontation between ICE and local people, no doubt organised against ICE. We've seen 2 killings. We've seen small children being taken out of that place and 1,000 miles away. Do you think that has an effect on British politics? Do you think when British voters look at what's happening in America, they think, no thanks, not here?
I think they do. I've long been arguing that don't let Trump's America become Farage's Britain. And that's, linked to what ICE is doing, but it's also linked to the health service. He's taking away health support for the most vulnerable in America. I think Farage would like to do the same here. He'd like to Americanize insurance system. I think, gun laws, a whole range of different things that Farage seems to like about Trump's America. I think if Farage ever got his hands on the levers of power, you only have to look to Trump's America to see what he'd do with them.